have a very interesting panel today. We've got India's largest data center operator from CtrlS. We've got Mr. Suresh Rathod over here. We've got Gaurav, who's representing a data center operator from the Nordics who took a mine and converted that into a data center 100 meters below the ground. So we're keen to find out what data is sitting over there. And then we have Gaurav. No, sorry, we have Rushikesh from ESDS. He's the CTO for ESDS, and before this, he used to be with Persistent Technologies. So pleasure to have all of you over here. The topic is around data repatriation, and today we've been talking a lot on infrastructure. We've been talking about regulatory frameworks. We've been talking about AI. There have been multiple conversations that we've had today. On data repatriation and the government of India, of course, we had our data localization bill, which was under debate, and that is something which went quiet. Again, we are hearing that it is something which is coming up again. We have the data privacy bill, which got gazetted last year around August. And then we have all the noise around data sovereignty, which has been happening. In light of all of this, Suresh, I'd like to, since you are at the forefront of the Indian data center industry and also cloud, what are you seeing in terms of repatriation when you are talking to large enterprise customers? Are they looking at repatriating data, or are they bringing, is it because of compute? What's happening?
See, I have a slightly different perspective of this entire discussion. Data repatriation is actually linked with globalization, localization, globalization. See, we stay in a world which is like a globalized world. Everything is like a depth of distance. In my first organization, we talked about depth of distance, and obviously we stay in a world where I think anybody can talk to anyone at just a click of a button. But what is happening is, because of the global tension, there every country wants to have their own laws, their own local laws, the regulation, sovereignty. Everybody now understand, every government understand that data is the next gold. Data is the most key function, and data is the asset of the nation, and which they want to preserve. So I think every government is trying to preserve the data by whichever laws they want to, but preserving data in a localized country is not so very easy. So within that framework, that government wants to regulate the data, but the technology is so ever pervasive that the prevention of data flowing from one country to another and protecting it from flowing is not so easy. So within that, I think every government wants to take some or the other decision, put some restriction which are artificial in nature, which can really be doable, not doable, only time will tell. Still, will the data leak will happen within those protection of the laws, in various forms and shape. We saw recently in Maharashtra election, everybody talked about the Bitcoin. So government put a lot of restriction, but still Bitcoin flew, right? So I think protecting those kind of a data is going to be a major challenge. But within that, I think India, being a very large country and very large producer of data and consumer of data, we ourselves, I think, will have a very strong infrastructure to preserve all those data. And I think government is trying to put some restrictions, but it's still far away.
Now there was a statement, and we talked about it earlier today as well. Until some time back, we used to talk about data gravity, and that is something which is getting very quickly replaced by compute gravity. Rishikesh, would you like to throw some light from a tech perspective and the compute perspective? How is that going to impact data and data's location?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, W.Media, for inviting me on this panel. Great question. Technology plays a very vital role in this data repatriation, and technology comes in two forms: software and hardware. So for data repatriation, you need to have that much amount of compute, network, and storage in place. First of all, today we are seeing that Indian data industry, especially with respect to cloud and data center, has crossed 100 billion mark. And when it has crossed that much, wherein the local business is hardly crossing 5 billion mark. So if we are doing only 5% of the total business that is happening in the data center and cloud arena, imagine the potential for the data to go outside and the data to be repatriated. Now, in order to repatriate this humongous data, as I said, we need to. I think the previous topic was very relevant on the supply chain side. You have to have your own compute, you have to have your own network storage, or at least you have to import as much as possible, and try and keep the data in the country. Sir mentioned about Bitcoin. In the Bitcoin, although it is fungible, if you move a Bitcoin from one place to another place, it is recorded. If you move money from one place to other place or one country to other country, it is recorded. If your data is moved from one country to other country, what about it? It's not recorded. I mean, only what you can trace is then IP to IP connection that has happened, but what data actually went, you can never know. So it is very important that to, first of all, work with your local government from a laws perspective that you mentioned, that is the laws appropriate to keep the data in country, and then is the technology ready to, to ensure that whatever quality of service we are getting outside, we are able to deliver it from the country, within country.
Now coming to you, Gaurav, and it'll be very interesting to get a perspective. Uh, for starters, is Indian data sitting in the Nordics? And what is the kind of data that is sitting there? Is it the moment you mentioned Lefdal mine, my first question was, is this Bitcoin mining? But it'll be interesting to hear from you as well.
Yeah, so basically, Lefdal Mine Data Center is not any mining company. It's in a mine. So Lefdal was the place name, and there was an old abandoned mine now, which is converted to 80 megawatt data center. And now I think we are expanding to 200 megawatt very soon. So it's not a mining company. And coming to the topic back, so before starting the event, I got one remark from Deborah. Don't let people sleep. So I will tell you, this topic is quite interesting for me. I'm advocating this since 2015-16 when the cloud was much in vogue. So I have a poster back in my office. Okay, it's a pretty big poster. So whenever I have any team calls, it's in a big, and it says, "There is no cloud. You are using someone else's computer." Okay, so before the start of the time, what happened? They put cloud on the two factor. First was the costing, which today I say is a blatant lie. Cloud is no cheap. Okay, not everybody can afford it, and the industries which are using it now, they are just checking their infrastructure. It's a big challenge. Okay, so you not as the bad part about what is everybody goes with the trend. Now the AI bubble is going on. A long time ago there was a cloud bubble, before that virtualization bubble. So we keep on following the trend, but the question is always for a business is, you see what you need and what is exactly for your finances. If you don't measure that, soon you will be bankrupted, or you will just burn the cash of venture capitalists. So the but another factor which was good with the cloud, and that will be the challenge when the repatriation will happen, and that is the disaster recovery. The best point, technically point of view, comes with the cloud is disaster recovery. Every cloud, if you talk Azure, AWS, any other, they have multiple zones. Okay, so if any country goes dysfunctional, now as Suresh mentioned that now we are in a war mode. You don't know which country will go in the rogue. Okay, which country will lose all the data, which will start fighting that. So you may lose all your backup. So when government is trending, whether BFSI is moving or other critical like healthcare sector is moving, they have to see how their backup is maintained, because having data is something important, but having backup, because they say so must run, so must go on. So if your data is not properly backed up, if you are not having proper backing DR solution, it will be a challenge. So you have to look for I think almost all the vendors in India. You have to look for all the data centers in India, and you cannot rely on one person. If one company goes bankrupt, your all data is gone. That will happen for sure.
That's very, very, very interesting, and thank you so much for these insights. Just talking about jurisdiction. I think Suresh, I'll come back to you, and we've talked about data localization laws, data sovereignty laws. Uh, what are you seeing from a jurisdiction when you are talking to some of the regulatory authorities? And of course, we are seeing, because of RBI governance, there are a lot of banking RFPs which are there. Because of SEBI coming in, there are a lot of this thing. What is it that you are seeing Do you think data privacy laws is any of these kind of things which is driving repatriation of data as well?
Sure, Rachit, thanks. Interesting question. Now, I've been traveling across the globe. Now, in India, we are using WhatsApp to such a large extent that we can't live without WhatsApp. I was in Bangkok just last week, and I found most of the citizens of Thailand, they use something called as a line. They hardly use WhatsApp. They don't use WhatsApp unless and until they are a part of the overseas team. When I was in China, they use lot of their own social media platform like DingTalk, or somebody use Lark, somebody use WeChat. So if you go to these countries and if you see, most of these countries are shying away from using the globalized social media platform, and the only reason is they have inculcate in them that all this social media, if you use a globalized company, it may lead to your leakage of data, right? Now, and I think we have all seen it, right? Even if we have come to this hotel, and Google will keep sending us all the hotel addresses now onwards, right? So in a sense, nothing is safe. So I think every government, what we talk to, in fact, I'm a part of the CII, and we have a lot of these chapters where government and MIT keeps talking to us as to how do we protect the data going unintentionally. Many times we just, we don't know who's using what data. So I think there'll have to be a government regulation, jurisdiction, how the data can be used, how the data will not be allowed to flow outside the country. I think all those regulations have to become more and more stringent. For whatever reason, India were always at the receiving end. I was part of the data center private data protection. Initial draft, if you would have known, it was so stringent, very stringent. But I think the lobbies by a lot of global organization made it so flexible that now it has actually no meaning of that data protection laws, because most of it can still flow outside the country, except maybe your financial data. But besides that, all other data can flow. So I think from that perspective, each and every government will have to become slightly more restrictive for the flow of this data, because data, as I said earlier, also data is a new oil, new economy. Who knows what will be used, how will be used. So if you know a very popular company, a short video company, right? They face the challenges wherever they go after 2 3 years, because they've been alleged to use those data, especially from a youngster, 15 16 10 year old boys and girls, use those data in whichever form and shape, which is not good for the nation, and it's not good for their security as well. So I think there will be a lot of these ifs and buts, but at the same time, you put more restriction, then the progress and the growth can hamper. So I think government are always balancing between the two, and I think the that's the question we will never be able to answer. But yes, there will be more and more thought process which will happen. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm gonna come back to you, Rushikesh. And I mean, on one side we're talking about the judicial or the jurisdiction, and what the government is saying, and there's a view that Suresh has given. On the other side, we're seeing all these large language models getting developed. We're seeing, and I'm very conscious that your business, I mean, you guys run one of the most successful government community cloud, and a lot of the cooperative banks and government customers are with you, and they're working on your cloud platform. Now I'm gonna correlate with Mukesh Ambani's announcement about building a 1 gigawatt cluster in AI cluster in Jamnagar. Clearly, if that cluster is going to be built, that cluster is being built for building a model and stuff like that. Is that going to trigger and be a larger force, or let's say neo clouds or AI? Is that going to be a larger force of data getting repatriated than the jurisdictions? What is your view?
Okay, quite many angles there. Starting with GCC, we created a roadmap actually with the help of MeetY. In a way, first of all, today, if you look at the overall data of Government of India in itself, First of all, there is no visibility in terms of at a central level. There is no visibility in terms of where the data is on which cloud, which country, where is it running. So that's the first visibility part. Second, are we in a position to take a backup of that data and restore it without the presence of that cloud service provider? So are we cloud agnostic in a way wherein the backup of that data is restorable on another cloud? Then it comes that, okay, are we at a position where at least DR can happen on our own clouds? And finally, can we run our own data in our own community cloud? So that's the roadmap where technologically we are working on. In the morning, we heard that India is looking at towards 10 gigawatt of target, wherein today we are under a gigawatt. And when you are mentioning that a gigawatt is a single gigawatt is coming up itself in a Jamnagar, that will trigger your AI model training part. The training, inferencing also needs some power, but training needs a lot of more power. That data center will be used for model training. But your enterprise workloads, your financial workloads, your day-to-day business workloads, which is essentially we can talk about OLTP kind of a workloads. Those still need to run within the country, within the geography, and the data which has flown outside should need to come back. There are two technology aspects on the data access perspective. One is IP. How many of you know that the IP address schema is broken into multiple geographies, like ARPA manages American IPs, RIPE manages UK and European IPs. For India, we have another body. So the idea is that if an American IP is used in India, there is a possibility that a governance rule or any particular mandate can neutralize that IP running from India. So even though public IPs are portable in technology nature, they are still ruled by the government regulations. Same happens with encryption, that your data, unless and until you control the encryption keys, your data is readable by the cloud service provider. That's the importance of encryption from a data perspective. And if you control the keys and you keep the data in your geography, you can be assured that even if your data is copied to another country, it is in an encrypted fashion and they can't read it. But if you do not control your own keys, then that's a problem.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I, I still want to ask this question once again. Big takeaway. Is compute, which is for AI compute, going to drive data repatriation or localization faster than jurisdiction? This thing, that part of the question, if you can, that's just my this thing. That's why I'm asking, and it'll be good to get Gaurav your views as well after this. From a repatriation from a cloud perspective, if you could think of something. But first, if you can answer this question, and then Gaurav, you can go next.
Okay. So when we say AI, currently, I would say AI is in a phase wherein we are very, what do you say, domain-driven AI. Like your hospital or rather medical AI is different than your other AI. Your financial AI is different. Some other AI is different. We are not yet into the AGI era, which is a generative, general intelligence, not generative, general intelligence. For AGI, you definitely need all the data of your country accessible in the training center, because without that you can't make an AGI suitable for the people of your own country or people that are going to use it.
And I'm going to. I think you've answered my question, and now I'm going to swing another layer around the question that I asked you, Gaurav. Was we spoke about repatriation from cloud, right? We've been talking about data repatriation into the country, but I'm talking about repatriation on the cloud. My data, let's say I am whatever today I'm JLL, and my data might be sitting in a certain data center of, let's say, Azure or AWS somewhere. But today, if I want to use compute in a certain place and I want to train data, my data, let's say it could be healthcare data or anything, is that something which is going to trigger repatriation from cloud? Is this AI journey a big disruptor for AI for data repatriation out of cloud?
That's why so I think again I would say engineering and technology are one thing. We are very good in amalgamating the things. So now if we talk about, you are saying cloud and you ask same question about AI, about how AI will tackled. So now most of the companies are focusing on AI cloud. Okay. So AI and cloud are not much different now. Okay. People are like, if they need to use AI or something, they are having multiple AI cloud provider. Okay. As Rishikesh said that jurisdiction can be fulfilled without moving without with giving the repatriation of data properly, because see there are two segments he told about, training and inference. So you have to see which because one of them is is pretty good enough, it can be anywhere, because it's whether your data is lying in Germany or your data is lying in India, still it's safe. But certain part of data that has to be with you. Say one example I would like to give about the cloud migration. The best sector about that is BFSI, because banking and finance is the core. Economy is the key for any country. So if you talk, because I think I worked around 10 year with the bank core banking solutions. Okay, how their infra works and everything. I was with one of the key bank in Norway. So when banks move their data, okay, so even if they are for the outside the world, it is saying that the bank has moved to cloud, because they have to say that it's the trend going on that everybody has to be on cloud, everybody has to be AI powered and everything. But it is, there is a lot of infra which cannot be moved to the cloud. Okay, they are still using lot of traditional infra for many of the services. So banks and BFSI in all key sectors which are already in traditional data centers, there are some part which is actually, you say whatever they are moving to the cloud, they know how important that is. If that is risky, that contains any PII which can be risk for their sector or anything, they won't put anywhere. So they are already safeguarded themselves. So same can be applied to the other industries also. You have to assess your data, you have to see what is there, and slowly you can start migrating that. There is no challenge, repatriation can easily be done from the cloud and vice versa. So I don't see any technical challenges there or anything which can compel the law about that.
For the last question now, I have a question for all of you. When we think of your data, this could be your personal data, your organization's data, your customers' data. What is the one thing that keeps you up at night? Suresh?
No, obviously, see, I think we are always worried about data pilferage, who will steal the data. And sometimes the data can be stolen from ourselves. We've been hearing and we've been seeing a lot of people getting caught in those, digital arrest. If you see the people themselves giving a digital arrest by, doing some of the other trick which these fraudsters are able to do. So I think all these things we don't know. Or a high court judge, which I read 2 months back, a Mumbai High Court judge lost 4 lakh rupees in a this kind of a cyber fraud. So I think none of us are safe from this data pilferage. Sometimes we ourselves may give the data unintentionally, and I think that's really very scary. In good old days we were worried about somebody will pick our pocket, but here somebody may flip your entire bank account, and and you could be bankrupt the next day. So I think it's always a big challenge to protect our own data, and obviously I can understand from that perspective. We are worried about our own data, the nation should be worried about their entire nation data, right? So I think it's a scary thought. It's not easy.
Uh, okay, so we come from a service provider background wherein we do offer SOC services as well as managed security services, and I think we are well known in the industry for that. Uh, Wherever there is data, we are worried in two ways of it. One is, of course, data leakage might have its own value, but rather bigger worry is losing access to your own data, especially with regards to ransomware or other disasters which can basically uh, take you to the stone age. If you don't protect your backups and data properly, your organization can be taken back into stone age, irrespective of whether you are a listed company or an unlisted company. So that's where I would say our team gives their blood and soul to ensure that no matter what technology, no matter what methodology, no matter what regulations, we will ensure to restore or keep your data available irrespective of the scenarios.
Great. And what about you, Gaurav? What do you think?
So I think when it comes to the data privacy, mostly people go with the finance and money. I know everybody's worried about, but I have a different perspective. I'm more ever about the health. A human health is the most important thing. So what I say is the healthcare is the most critical sector. Imagine if you are having a very special organ in your body, you are having a very rare organ or rare blood group, and if your data is public and a person needs it, who is a multi-millionaire guy, you know how risky it can be. You can lose money, you can earn it again. If you lose your health or someone can make a disadvantage of that, so healthcare sector is the most critical, what I feel, and finance is anyhow most critical.
With that, I'd like to thank you all, everyone, for joining us for this panel. Thank you so much, Suresh, Rishikesh, and Gaurav. All your inputs have been very, very valuable. I hope all the listeners found it useful. Thank you so much. With that, I'd like to close this panel. Thank you.